Being alone teaches you to trust yourself. Most people never learn this. They're constantly seeking validation, asking others what they should do, begging for reassurance that they are on the right path. But when you are by yourself, no one is there to save you. No one is there to tell you what you should do. You become your own guide. That's when your intuition sharpens, your self-belief grows, and your independence becomes unshakable. Solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is an emptiness, a craving for connection that feels out of reach. Solitude is a choice. It is strength. It is the art of enjoying your own company, of not needing constant noise to feel whole. When you are comfortable being alone, you take away the power others hold over you. No one can control you with fear of abandonment because you've already mastered standing alone. And the truth is, the greatest transformations happen in isolation. The moments where you shut the world out, where you stop listening to every opinion, where you cut the noise and finally hear your own voice, those are the moments where your life changes. Think about it. Growth rarely happens in crowded rooms. It happens late at night when you're reflecting on your choices. It happens when you take a step back from people who drain you. It happens when you choose yourself. Being alone forces you to face yourself, the good, the bad, and the parts you've been avoiding. It's uncomfortable, but that's where the power lies. Because when you learn to embrace every part of yourself, no one can use your flaws against you. You no longer seek to hide who you are. You stand tall, unapologetic, unshaken. Alone is where you become dangerous in the best way possible because you learn to create, to plan, to execute without depending on anyone. You realize you don't need constant company to feel fulfilled. You realize that people are an addition, not a necessity. And when you finally do connect with others, it comes from a place of strength, not desperation. So stop fearing solitude. Stop thinking that being alone is a weakness. It is not. It is the breeding ground of self-respect, clarity, and transformation. Those who cannot be alone will always be controlled by those they cling to. But those who master solitude, those are the ones who cannot be broken. When you are truly alone without the constant chatter of others around you, something profound happens. You begin to hear yourself in a way you never have before. That voice inside you, the one that gets drowned out by opinions, expectations, and judgments, finally has the space to be heard. At first, it might feel uncomfortable. Silence can be intimidating when you're used to leaning on others for every little decision. But with time, you start realizing that the silence is not empty. It is full of answers you were always seeking outside of yourself. That is the beauty of solitude. It teaches you to trust yourself. So many people go through life desperately looking for reassurance. They ask others what they should do, whether they're good enough, whether their choices are valid. They're constantly looking outward, and because of this, they never build a relationship with themselves. Being alone strips away the noise. It gives you no choice but to face your own thoughts. At first, you may not like what you hear. You might hear self-doubt, fear, insecurity, and most people run from that. That's why they keep themselves distracted with constant company. But the ones who stay, the ones who sit with that discomfort and allow themselves to grow through it, those are the ones who become powerful, because the more you listen to yourself, the more you learn that your intuition is sharper than you ever gave it credit for. You begin to understand that you don't need 10 different people telling you what path to take. You already know deep down what is right for you. You just never gave yourself the chance to trust it. The truth is, you will never reach your highest potential if you can't stand being alone. Think about it. Every great transformation requires solitude. Whether it's an athlete training in silence before the world ever sees them, or an artist creating something when no one is watching, or a person healing from heartbreak behind closed doors, greatness is born in those moments of solitude. Why? Because that's when the real work happens. That's when you are not performing for anyone else. That's when you are raw, real, and honest with yourself. And that honesty is what shapes you into someone unstoppable. When you learn to trust yourself, the way you carry yourself changes. You stop asking everyone's opinion before making a decision. You stop explaining yourself unnecessarily. You stop doubting every move you make. Instead, you move with quiet confidence. You become grounded in your choices. Even when others don't understand, even when they question you, you remain calm because you know that you can trust your own judgment. And let me tell you, this kind of self-trust is rare. Most people will never reach it because they're too afraid of being alone long enough to develop it. But once you have it, no one can take it from you. Self-trust is the kind of power that no one else can give you and no one else can take away. People may leave, people may doubt you, people may even betray you. But when you trust yourself, you know you will always be okay. You know that no matter what happens, you will figure it out. That's the kind of confidence that makes people stop and notice. That's the kind of confidence that makes you magnetic, that makes you unshakable. And here's the secret. Once you stop seeking validation, once you stop desperately needing others to confirm your worth, you become free. You are no longer chained to anyone's opinion of you. You no longer live for applause. You no longer shrink when you face disapproval. You live for yourself. You make choices that align with your truth, not with what others expect. And in that moment, you become powerful beyond measure. This is why solitude is so important. It is the training ground for self-trust. It is where you test your own strength. It is where you learn that you don't need saving. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't need anyone else to tell you who you are. You already know. And when you learn to trust yourself deeply, when you build that foundation, you stop being afraid of what could go wrong. You start believing in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. So let the silence guide you. Let solitude become your teacher. Don't run from the quiet, embrace it. Because in that stillness, you will discover your truest power. And that power will never come from anyone else. It will come from within you. Most people confuse solitude with loneliness, but they are not the same. Loneliness feels heavy, like a void you desperately want to fill. It's the emptiness that comes when you crave connection, but cannot find it. Solitude, however, is strength. Solitude is a conscious choice, a decision to be with yourself without the need to escape or distract. And once you understand the difference, your entire life changes. When you are lonely, you operate from fear. Fear of being unwanted, fear of being abandoned, fear of being unseen. That fear drives you to cling to people who don't deserve you, to accept treatment far below your worth, to settle for half love just so you don't have to be alone. But when you step into solitude, you are not clinging. You are standing tall. You are saying, I am enough even without constant company. I enjoy my own presence. And when you can say that, when you can mean it, no one can manipulate you anymore. Think about it. How many people stay in toxic relationships simply because they are afraid of being alone? How many compromise their self-respect just to have someone by their side? They fear solitude so much that they chain themselves to situations that kill their spirit. But the truth is, the moment you embrace solitude, those chains break. You realize you don't need anyone to validate your existence. You realize that you are whole on your own. You start seeing people as an addition, not a necessity. That is the kind of mindset that frees you. Being comfortable in solitude is one of the most liberating feelings in the world. It means you don't chase people, you don't beg for attention, you don't settle for crumbs, because you know that your peace is too valuable to sacrifice for temporary company. You stop confusing presence with value. You stop thinking, at least I as someone, because you know that someone means nothing if they are not bringing love, respect, and peace into your life. Solitude teaches you that it is far better to stand alone in peace than to stand with many in chaos. And the best part is once you stop fearing solitude, you stop fearing abandonment. No one can use that against you anymore. They can threaten to leave, they can pull away, they can play games to make you feel like you need them, but it won't work because you already know how to be alone and you're not afraid of it. That kind of security is rare. It makes you untouchable. People cannot control someone who isn't afraid of walking away. And that's exactly the kind of strength solitude gives you. In solitude, you also learn to enjoy your own company. You start to realize that being with yourself can actually be fulfilling. You find hobbies you love. You create. You think. You plan. You reflect. You begin to build a life where your happiness does not rely on constant interaction. And the more you do this, the more selective you become with who you allow into your space. Because now you know that your own company is already enough. So if someone wants to enter your world, they must add peace, not chaos. They must elevate you, not drain you. Solitude makes you raise your standards because you no longer accept less than what you give yourself. There is also a deep kind of clarity that comes when you are alone in the silence, when there are no voices influencing you, no opinions clouding your vision. You begin to see what truly matters to you. You begin to understand what you want, what you don't want, who you are, and where you're going. That clarity is priceless. Without it, people live blindly, constantly following others, constantly distracted, never truly living for themselves. But when you cultivate solitude, you start living with intention. Every choice becomes clearer. Every step becomes stronger. And here's the truth. People who cannot be alone will always be controlled. They will always be manipulated by their fear of solitude. But people who master solitude, who are not afraid of their own company, they are the ones who become powerful. Most people avoid isolation because it feels uncomfortable. They don't want to be left with their thoughts. They don't want to face their fears. They would rather distract themselves with constant company than sit with their own reflection. But the truth is, nothing changes in comfort. Transformation demands that you step into the quiet, that you face yourself, that you stop hiding behind the noise. And when you do, you will see that the greatest breakthroughs always happen in solitude. Think about the moments in your life where you changed the most. It wasn't when you were distracted by the crowd. It wasn't when you were busy pleasing everyone else. It was when you were alone, reflecting, healing, rebuilding. It was when you took a step back from everything and everyone. In that space, you gained perspective. You saw what needed to change. You started to understand what you truly wanted, what you could no longer tolerate, what your next step should be. That is the gift of isolation. It gives you the clarity the noise of the world could never give you. Isolation is not punishment, even though it might feel like it at first. It is preparation. It is the universe's way of pulling you away from distractions so that you can focus on becoming who you're meant to be. When you are isolated, you are being given an opportunity to reset. You are being stripped of external influences so that your true self can finally rise. And if you embrace that, if you stop fighting it, you will come out of it stronger, wiser, and unrecognizable to the version of yourself that once settled for less. The truth is, most people will never experience true transformation because they are too afraid to be alone long enough to achieve it. They fill their lives with noise, social media, gossip, endless conversations just to avoid sitting with themselves. But if you want to grow, if you want to rise, you cannot run from isolation. You have to face it. You have to embrace it because that's where the real work happens. That's where you build discipline, self-respect, and clarity. When you are in isolation, you also begin to see people differently. You start to realize who was truly there for you and who was only there for the benefits of being around you. Distance reveals truth. Silence reveals intentions. And as painful as that realization might be, it sets you free. It teaches you to stop clinging to people who never valued you. It teaches you to stop giving your energy to those who never deserved it. And with that, you reclaim your power. Isolation is also where ideas are born. The world's greatest creators, leaders, and thinkers all understood this. They didn't find their genius in crowded rooms. They found it in solitude, where they could hear their thoughts clearly and bring their visions to life. You too will find your strength there. In the quiet, your mind sharpens, your focus deepens, your vision becomes clear. And slowly, you begin to realize that everything you were seeking outside was always within you. You just needed the silence to hear it. And here's the beauty of it. Once you embrace isolation, once you allow it to transform you, you stop fearing it. You stop seeing it as a punishment. Instead, you see it as a powerful tool. You start choosing isolation when you need clarity. You start craving it when the world becomes too noisy. You understand that stepping back is not weakness, it's strategy. It is strength. It is how you protect your peace and elevate your life. So don't run from those seasons of isolation. Don't rush to fill the silence with noise. Sit with it. Let it shape you. Let it refine you. Because the version of you that will walk out of that solitude will not be the same person who walked in. You will be stronger. You will be clearer. You will be unshakable. And when you return to the world, you will return as someone transformed, someone who cannot be broken by the noise because you have already found power in the silence. When you are alone, there is no one left to distract you from yourself. No voices telling you who you should be. No masks to hide behind. No excuses to lean on. It is just you and the mirror of your soul. And that is terrifying for most people. Because solitude forces you to face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. The doubts, the insecurities, the wounds you never healed. But this is exactly why solitude is powerful. It doesn't let you run. It doesn't let you hide. It places you face to face with the truth. And when you learn to embrace that truth, instead of fearing it, you gain a kind of power that no one can ever take away. Facing yourself is not easy. At first, you will want to escape. You will feel the urge to numb the silence, to scroll endlessly, to call someone, to distract yourself with anything, just to avoid sitting with your own reflection. But here is the thing. You can never escape yourself. No matter how far you run, you take yourself with you. The only way out is through. And the moment you stop avoiding, the moment you allow yourself to sit in that discomfort, that is when real growth begins. You start to notice your patterns, the ways you sabotage yourself, the cycles you keep repeating, the fears that have been dictating your life. It is painful to admit them. Yes, but it is also liberating because when you finally name them, you can change them. When you bring your shadows into the light, they lose their power over you. And suddenly the very things that once made you feel weak become the fuel that makes you stronger. When you face yourself in solitude, you learn self-acceptance. You stop demanding perfection. You stop pretending to be flawless. You start saying, yes, I have scars. Yes, I have weaknesses. Yes, I have flaws, but they do not define me. And once you embrace that, once you stop hiding, no one can use your imperfections against you anymore. People can try to shame you. People can try to expose you, but you won't be shaken because you have already faced your truth. You have already embraced it. There is nothing left to fear. That's where your strength lies. Not in pretending to be untouchable, not in creating a perfect image, but in standing tall in your authenticity, in saying, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. Do you realize how powerful that makes you? Most people live their entire lives hiding, wearing masks, performing for the world, terrified of being exposed. But the one who has faced themselves, the one who is not afraid of their flaws, that person cannot be broken. That person moves through the world with an energy that is unshakable, magnetic, unstoppable. And the beauty of facing yourself is that you also discover the parts of you that you've been neglecting. You begin to see your strengths, your resilience, your brilliance. You realize that you are capable of far more than you ever gave yourself credit for. Solitude doesn't just reveal the darkness, it also reveals the light. And when you embrace both, when you accept every part of who you are, you become whole. You no longer need others to complete you. You no longer chase validation. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence that speaks louder than words. The world cannot intimidate someone who has already faced themselves. Because what can they take from you? What can they expose? What can they shame? You've already done the hard work in solitude. You've already faced the mirror. And now you walk forward unafraid. That is true freedom. That is true power. Most people spend their lives running from their past, from their pain, from themselves. But those who are brave enough to stop running, those who face themselves in solitude, they are the ones who rise. They are the ones who stand out. They are the ones who inspire because they embody authenticity, and authenticity is power. Don't fear the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. Don't run from the silence. Sit with it. Listen to what it has to show you. Confront the truths that make you uncomfortable. Heal the wounds you've been ignoring. Because the moment you do, you stop living in fear of yourself. And when that fear is gone, there is nothing left that can break you. Independence is the ultimate power. When you master being alone, when you no longer fear solitude, you unlock a strength that most people will never touch. Because here's the truth. The majority of people move through life in chains. Chains of needing constant company, chains of needing approval, chains of needing someone to reassure them that they are enough. And those chains keep them small. They make decisions not from freedom, but from fear. They cling to people who drain them. They accept situations that break them, all because they cannot imagine standing on their own. But the one who has mastered solitude is different. The one who has learned to stand alone becomes unbreakable. Independence shifts everything about the way you live. You no longer stay in toxic situations because you are afraid of losing them. You no longer silence yourself just to keep peace. You no longer shrink yourself just to fit in. Why? Because you know that even if you are left with nothing and no one, you still have yourself, and that is enough. This realization is life-changing. It makes you fearless in your choices. It makes you bold in your actions. It makes you grounded in your worth. People who fear being alone are easily controlled. They can be manipulated with the simple threat of abandonment. But people who are independent, who have mastered solitude, cannot be controlled. You cannot use fear against someone who has already made peace with standing alone. That's why independence is so powerful. It makes you untouchable. Independence also brings peace. When you know how to stand on your own, you stop clinging to people who disrupt your peace. You stop forcing connections. You stop accepting half-love. Instead, you start choosing people because you want them, not because you need them. And that is a completely different energy. Need is desperate, but want is powerful. When you no longer need anyone to complete you, your relationships become healthier, stronger, and more intentional. You attract people who add to your life instead of people who drain it. The beautiful thing about independence is that it doesn't isolate you. It actually deepens your connections because you're no longer attaching to others out of fear. You're attaching out of love. You're no longer staying because you're scared of being alone. You're staying because you truly want them in your life. That makes your bonds more authentic. Independence allows you to love without possession, to give without expecting, to walk away without fear. That is love in its purest form, and it can only be born out of strength, not weakness. And independence doesn't just affect your relationships, it changes the way you build your life. When you trust yourself, when you know that you can depend on your own strength, you stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop waiting for someone to hand you opportunities. You stop waiting for someone to give you permission rise. You start moving for yourself. You start building for yourself. You start creating a life that reflects your vision, not anyone else's. That kind of self-reliance is rare, and it is the foundation of true success. But let's be honest, reaching this level of independence is not easy. It requires you to break the habit of seeking constant validation. It requires you to face your fears, your insecurities, your need for approval. It requires you to sit in solitude until you no longer see it as emptiness, but as strength. That process is uncomfortable, but it is also transformative. Once you come out on the other side, you will never again settle for less than you deserve. You will never again beg for love. You will never again lose yourself just to keep someone else. Because you will know your worth, and you will know that you can stand strong with or without anyone. Independence is not about pushing everyone away. It is not about being cold or detached. Independence is about freedom. It is about knowing that your happiness, your peace, your future do not depend on anyone else. It is about walking into every room, every relationship, every opportunity with the confidence that you are already whole. And when you live like that, when you carry that energy, you become unstoppable. So, master solitude. Learn to enjoy your own company. Build a life that doesn't crumble if people leave. Because once you know how to be independent, once you know how to stand on your own, you will never again be broken by the loss of anyone. You will move through life unshakable, free, and powerful beyond measure.